Andrea was happy. She woke up with a blissful smile on her face. She felt Dustin breathing on the nape of her neck and smiled again. The money for her honeymoon had already been set aside. Yesterday, she told Dustin about it, and for half an hour she was listening to praise of what a good job she did, and that he was certainly not mistaken in his choice. But a couple of weeks ago, Andrea doubted the rightness of her decision. Dustin introduced her to his family, and she felt that they did not like her. Andrea inherited a small 2-room apartment from her beloved grandmother. After her grandmother's death, she lived here alone, and after the engagement, her fiancé Dustin moved in with her. One of the rooms was locked. It was her grandmother's room. Andrea had left everything there as it had been when Grandma was alive. Her old dresser, rocking chair, desk, and shelves with boxes of colorful yarn. Of course, after the wedding, this room would take on a different appearance, but for now, everything remained the same. Sometimes Andrea would go there in the evenings, sit down in a rocking chair, turn on an old floor lamp, and think about her own things. Dustin didn't like it, but he couldn't do anything about it. He did not go into the room and only grumbled that so much space was being wasted. Andrea was the eldest in her family. Her parents often put her in charge of taking care of her younger sister and brother. But most of all, she was offended by the fact that she was constantly scolded. The wrong way she cleaned, washed, dressed. Sister and brother soon got used to the fact that it was always the older sister's fault and began to take advantage of the situation. So Andrea, having finished school, took her simple things from the paternal home and went to live with her grandmother. Grandma loved Andrea, pampered her with homemade buns, and taught her to live honestly. Andrea crawled out from under the warm blanket and ran to the kitchen to make pancakes for breakfast. Soon Dustin came into the kitchen, yawning and stretching. He sat down at the table, moved a plate of hot pancakes closer to him, and began to eat with pleasure. "Listen, Andrea, I've been thinking. Let's stay home for the honeymoon. I think it's better to buy a car with that money. We need to add a little. You could take out a loan. They'll give it to you for sure." Andrea looked at Dustin's contented face with bewilderment but did not say anything because she heard the key turning in the lock of the front door. She didn't have time to get really scared because the mother-in-law-to-be, her daughters, and her youngest son, 18 years old, came into the hallway. Nearby, Andrea saw 3 suitcases and 1 bag. "Hello, sweetheart, welcome your guests," said Dustin's mother without giving Andrea a second thought. "We talked with Dustin yesterday and decided to come to you today. Why should we wait?" Andrea looked puzzled at Dustin, who briskly began to carry the suitcases from the hallway to the door of her grandmother's room. "Andrea, open the door," said Dustin. "We should clean it up. Take this stupid chair out to the loggia. We will leave the rest of the furniture for now. There will be enough space for Paul. But all these old yarn balls should be put away somewhere. Maybe we should throw them away." "What do you mean, enough space for Paul? And why should I throw anything away? And why does your mother have the keys to my apartment?" asked Andrea, gradually understanding the meaning of this morning's visit of her future relatives. "Oh, don't you get it?" The future mother-in-law entered the conversation. "You are living well, thank God. The wedding is in 2 weeks. You and Dustin are going to buy a car, and you have 1 empty room, don't you? As long as you do not have kids, let Paul live here, because it takes him a long ride from my house to college, and from you it's only 5 minutes." "Andrea, why are you angry? Can't we accept my brother for a while?" smiled Dustin reproachfully. "Yes, and Dustin has already looked at the car." Suddenly, Dustin's sister joined the conversation. "My good friend is selling it. It's a cool car. Why do you need this trip? You'll go to the sea next time, but such a chance should not be missed. When else will you get a good deal on a car like this?" "All right, Andrea, look for the keys to the room while I'll treat everybody with pancakes," said Dustin, and leaving Andrea in the corridor, followed to the kitchen. Andrea went into her grandmother's room, sat down on the rocking chair, and began to think. It was already clear that she would be left without breakfast. Her future relatives are sweeping away everything from the table and fridge now, and she would have to drag the bags from the grocery in the evening. And she would have to go into the wedding stash because Dustin was no help at all. When he moved in, he immediately announced that they would live on Andrea's salary and save his money to buy a bigger place. Andrea did not protest, especially since they were planning a wedding in 6 months. And now there are new surprises. It turned out that Dustin had already managed to give his mother the keys to her apartment, and they decided without her that his brother would live with them. But why should she live with a strange young guy in her apartment for such a long time? The last straw was the car. Andrea had dreamed of the sea for a long time. Her parents went to the sea a couple of times when she was little, but they never took her. And Andrea decided that her honeymoon trip would be unforgettable. Tenerife, a nice hotel, sweet Spanish wine, and a room with sea view. Andrea cried. Grandmother appeared in her memory almost immediately. My granddaughter, remember, if a man loves, he cares. Find that care and you'll never be mistaken. The decision came quickly. First, Andrea called her work and asked to be let go on vacation 2 weeks early. Then she called Zoe, her best friend. She explained the situation and asked her to keep an eye on the apartment while she would be away. Zoe lived 2 houses away and, of course, immediately agreed. Don't hesitate, I'll put them in their place quickly. Then Andrea called the travel agency where the day before she had chosen a tour for her honeymoon. A new trip was quickly found for her out of the burning tours. The suitcase was already packed. She had dreamed of the sea for so long that she had packed everything beforehand, not waiting for the wedding. In 10 minutes, she was already out of the apartment, quietly closing the door behind her and leaving a note. The wedding is canceled. Give the keys to Zoe. Buy the car by yourself. Already driving up to the airport, Andrea pulled out an endlessly vibrating phone with 100 missed calls and hysterical messages. Are you crazy? Yes, I'm crazy, whispered Andrea with a smile, and somewhere in the back of her mind, her grandmother was smiling with her kind eyes.